Defining namespaces is pretty simple. At the top of the file, right after the opening PHP tag, the namespace keyword is used, followed by the virtual directory of your choosing. This virtual directory can act as a single directory or be a few subdirectories deep. We're going to be also looking at the use keyword. Remember the use keyword? Yeah, well, it's coming back. So defining namespaces. All right, let's go ahead, and what I want to do is start off by requiring in our Lamborghini.php class, and what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and instantiate a new Lamborghini, and we'll pass like 1999. Actually, let's see, what did we leave off last time? Requires year, make, model, and secret code. Let's say Lamborghini. Let's try Murcielago this time, and secret code 1234. Yes, the secretest of secret. And then we'll say echo Lamborghini get year, make, and model. We're going to go over to our browser, finding namespaces, open that up, and as you can see, it prints out 1999 Lamborghini Murcielago, which means everything works. So we need everything to work before we can begin. All right, since no namespaces have been defined in any of the classes that we're using, so if we look at Lamborghini, it doesn't require any kind of namespace. Same thing if we open up car, no namespace, and you can just trust me that none of these other classes have namespaces either. If they did, it would be right after the opening PHP tag. So how do we define a namespace? Well, let's go ahead and actually define it inside our file that's requiring in this like Lamborghini.php. So what we're going to do is we're going to say namespace, and then whatever we want this namespace to be called. So I think what I want it to be called is cool cars. So now, as you can see, automatically we're getting an error. It says undefined class Lamborghini, class reference Lamborghini, cool cars Lamborghini. It doesn't exist, right? So let's go ahead and open up our browser, hit refresh. As you can see, class cool cars / Lamborghini. So it's like it added this cool cars sub-directory or a directory, right? And then it was looking for this Lamborghini inside of cool cars, and it's not found in the defining namespaces.php on line 7. So how do we go around fixing this? So as you can see right here, we defined the namespace. So now all this code that's inside here belongs to technically this directory, right? So namespace, you can just kind of treat it like a directory, even though what we're doing is we're grouping related code together. Everything else that doesn't have a namespace is technically in the global space. You can treat this folder right here that I have 69 defining namespaces as the root directory, and everything inside here is inside the global space, with the exception of this class called 69 defining namespaces.php, and that class has a namespace, or not that class, but that file is in a namespace called cool cars. So it's almost like we created a subdirectory inside here and named it cool cars and then placed this file in here. Technically, it's like, all right, let's go ahead and show this a little bit more graphically. So we have our root, and then inside of our root directory, we have our cool cars, and then inside of our cool cars directory, we have this 69 defining namespaces.php file, which is the file right here. Within the root directory as well is our Lamborghini.php, our car.php, etc., right? The rest of the classes. When we're trying to require once this Lamborghini.php, it's looking inside of this cool cars directory, technically, right? These are virtual directories that we're talking about. And it can't find it because it's in a directory. It's in the global directory. All right, so I'm just going to keep this up here. So how can we find this new Lamborghini? I mean, this file is within the same directory, right? Within this directory that I created over here. It's just this class is living in a different virtual directory. So in order to do that, all we do is add this backslash, and this backslash says, hey, look at the global directory and you will find Lamborghini, right? So Lamborghini 1999. Okay, so now we can go over to our browser again, hit refresh, and we're back to normal. So we didn't have to do anything to the file because the files all live within the same directory. It's just the namespace, the virtual directory that's different now, right? How do we tell PHP that this Lamborghini class is within the global directory? By just appending it with the backslash and saying, hey, Lamborghini is inside the global directory. What we could also do is make Lamborghini within the cool cars directory. So all we would have to do is go to Lamborghini and at the very top define namespace cool cars. But now, because it's extending car, it's now running into the same problem where the parent is not within the same directory, it's in the global scope. So we can actually append the backslash car, say, hey, this is in the global directory, and it will require it as needed. So let's go ahead, hit refresh inside of our browser, and everything's good to go. If we remove this backslash and go to the browser, now we're getting this cool cars car not found inside the namespaces, the cool cars namespace. So that's how you set all of these up inside this namespace. Same namespace. If you want to get away from using the backslash, we could go to car, go up to the top of the car, define this as namespace cool cars. But now vehicle is throwing this error saying, hey, we're not in the same namespace. So then we would have to open up the vehicle, go to the top, define the namespace cool cars. So now everything's within cool cars, except we're also using the engine and transmission traits. So then we have to open up engine trait and say, hey, we're within cool cars directory. And as you can see, we're also getting rid of that little underline. Let's open up transmission and take a look at that again. And what it says, if I scroll over it, is other declarations of class transmission exist at 64 anonymous classes and all these other directories. And technically PHP is now getting a little confused, saying like, okay, something's a little weird. Like we don't want the same kind of classes, but if we tell it, hey, but this class lives in a different virtual directory, oh, now all of a sudden it's okay. So let's see, what else do we have? We have vehicle, which we define as cool cars, namespace, transmission, Lamborghini. We can even do Ferrari, even though we haven't used it yet. We'll say, hey, this lives within the cool cars namespace, engine, driver. We haven't used that in this one, but we'll define it as it living in cool cars. And then, of course, car, as well as the actual file. So now everything is living in the same namespace. And once we go to the browser and hit refresh, it's perfectly good. We didn't have to do anything. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to take this class out of this namespace directory. So everything besides the class that's actually calling everything, right? So it's requiring in the Lamborghini class, Lamborghini is extending car, etc., etc. So the Lamborghini and everything else is within the cool cars namespace. But once we call this, Lamborghini is not within, or this source, actually, we should rewrite this. So this is within root, and now everything else is within this cool cars namespace. So it looks like this right now. So everything is inside here except this one file, which is what we're using right now. So how do we do that? Well, we could say cool cars \Lamborghini. So it's just within our new keyword, we could say, hey, new Lamborghini class, but it's also located within cool cars. So we just have to append cool cars \Lamborghini, and it knows how to find it. So it's not confused anymore. We can go to our browser, hit refresh, and we are good. Remember I said we're also going to be using our use keyword? Well, at the very top right here, what we can do is let's delete this Lamborghini, and we can say this class is going to be using cool cars \Lamborghini. So we're going to be using this class from the cool cars namespace. And if we write it out right there, we're telling PHP, hey, if you happen to find any Lamborghini classes inside here, just go ahead and replace it with cool cars Lamborghini technically, right? So it's like, this is the namespace that Lamborghini is being used. We could use this use keyword so we don't have to use this namespace \class syntax down here. So we'll go ahead and click save. We're going to go ahead and open up our browser, hit refresh, and it still works. So I think this is good enough for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, what we're going to be looking at is sub-namespaces, and then also how to use this use keyword and get around some naming conflicts. So far we haven't looked at two different classes with the same name, but I just wanted to do a quick little tutorial on namespaces, on how to define them, just so you guys don't get overwhelmed in one tutorial. Let it sink in. If you haven't looked at it before, do this a couple of times before moving on to the next one.